the fact that there is a war going on, you can't talk about sports without first expressing sympathy for those under attack. So, yeah, the world is ending. There's college basketball today, though, so not technically yet.
So
also,
get your bets in.
lines on hockey. Yeah. As long as there's sports, we're okay. Sports just got me through a pandemic. So I trust sports to get me through this as well.
Yeah.
How are things in the Rocky Mountains there, John?
Well, it's been a deep freeze all week, but so I haven't been able to play tennis. I've adopted the Rocky Mountain sports: pickleball, tennis, skiing. So it's been good this week for skiing, but not so much for all the other things that get your blood pumping.
Pickleball. I hear a lot of retirees and now young people talking about. Explain pickleball to me. Apparently,
it's sort of an old man's
played
tennis. Is the best way I know how to put it. So you got paddles, you've got a lower net, you got a lot of hip movement without a lot of steps. So it's a lot of. I played one time and I think I used muscles I hadn't used before. A lot of glutes, a lot of lunging. It's a weird sport to play. I'm used to running around and catching and jumping and throwing, and then you get pickleball in and you're just moving weird muscles. That's it.
I experienced something like that when we had a birthday party for my daughter a couple of years ago. We did laser tag. There was a lot of crouching and running, and I couldn't walk for about 4 days after that.
Yeah.
There are muscles in my legs that I apparently don't use on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, pickleball has been off the table this week. Actually, I've been playing with a friend who's pretty good, but I can still beat him. Nice to get the competitive juices flowing. In a seemingly physical education sport, there's nothing worse than, or nothing funnier rather, than seeing a complete meltdown on a tiny little pickleball court. You cross the line, you're in the kitchen. Because there's this area in pickleball called the kitchen. You can't go in the kitchen and hit it. So you see a lot of old men throwing their weight around saying, get out of the kitchen.
These old men can't take the heat.
Yeah.
I would not want to meet up with one Juwan Howard in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that might throw a punch. What do you think about that? The handshake line assault heard around the world.
Well, here's my take on it is that in today's society, we don't let guys fight anymore. And so what you get is just like a slap fight, and it's kind of an insult. So, I saw it wasn't even a punch. I mean, it was kind of like a half-assed slap, like he couldn't decide whether he was going to close his fist or not. And so you just get kind of this little slap fight. And, especially when it comes to coaches and players, I think as a society, we need to say, no, I want to see who wins this fight and see what Juwan Howard can do, because I don't think these big guys are any good at fighting. Charles Barkley said it really well a couple of years ago. These guys have been the biggest person in every room their whole lives, so they've never fought. Nobody wants to fight Juwan Howard, so he's probably not good. So I want to see an old, clunky man try to land a couple haymakers. But, we've got players and coaches pulling them apart, and so we'll never know. We'll never know if Juwan Howard can fight.
I think Greg Gard might have been able to go a couple rounds.
He looks like an ankle biter.
Yeah, sort of one of those all bark, no bite type guys. And this isn't his first little scuffle. And I don't really understand what his issue was with it. I think he was mad he didn't just get to blow by Greg Gard and say, I'll remember that shit, and then move on and then say some tough guy stuff after the fact. Greg Gard wanted to discuss it with him and explain why he called the timeout. I don't know. That game was out of hand. I turned it on shortly after halftime, and it was a good game. It was 31-31 at half, and then Wisconsin pulled away, and they were up almost 20, and they put the scrubs and the walk-ons in, and then I think it was, 48 seconds left. Wisconsin hits a three to go up 76-57. The game is over at this point. And then with 22 seconds left, they inbound. Michigan scores two, making it 76-61, and there's like 20 seconds left. They run a full court press on these walk-ons and scrubs, and they have 4 seconds to get it across half court. So guard called a timeout, which is totally legal to do. And
which is what a
I
good
don't know
coach would
what
do in that situation, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we're actually still playing. Okay, well then I'm actually still going to coach. I'm going to
Yeah.
call timeout, move the ball for the inbounds to make it easier.
Yeah, I mean, and he told these kids, we're not even gonna shoot. We're just gonna get it across half court and run the clock out. And he's all over these guys. The kid's trapped, so he calls timeout, and Juwan Howard loses his mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is overall good for the sport. I love rivalry. Like, what are college sports if not rivalries?
Right.
You have, I don't know what they're calling it now, the Red River Warm Embrace, or whatever they call the Red River Shootout now. But these are the things that keep, like, I want to see Wisconsin and Michigan play in the Big Ten tournament now, because I want to see how chippy that game is. The ratings are going to be much higher. So I think it's positive for the sports to spend him a few games, sure, but people call him for his job. That's another thing I'm over is these people and their overreactions. Just because you're alive for it doesn't mean it's the best or the worst or the most egregious thing that's ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Bob Knight has grabbed people by the throat, throwing chairs on the court.
No, he's a hothead. No, and I love it.
Yeah, he's no stranger to altercations after the game. So I think you suspend him a few games. What do you get? 5 games?
This has happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they want to admit it or not, they love the fact that we're talking. Who talks about Wisconsin and Michigan in February?
Same with Bobby Knight.
Right.
So they love that.
Yeah.
They want that going on.
Same.
So, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it makes the Big Ten more interesting because the Big Ten is actually really awesome this year. And then you throw in, slap fight and heated rivalry come out of nowhere that didn't need to exist, but somehow it does because Juwan Howard has no concept of what was going on. So he's being a little bit of an idiot and then also a hothead. And those are always fun to watch.
And his immediate reaction wasn't that of a man who understands he overreacted. He said something like he was defending himself. You don't put your hands on me. It's Greg Gard grabbed him by the elbow, something that you do when you greet someone sometimes if you're looking to have a short conversation with them. I don't know. I didn't see it as Adam Schefter would put it, assault.
Oh, gosh.
But, whatever.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot more college basketball this year. I'm getting in.